It's Local 24 This Week with Richard Ransom.
Welcome to Local 24 This Week, where every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and again at 10:35 p.m. we bring you the real story behind the big stories. In a moment, I'll be joined by representatives from the Memphis Police and Fire Associations about why they want you to vote in favor of an increase in the Memphis sales tax this October. But first, our other topics for today: Mississippi's Republican runoff, another round of voting for the GOP in the Magnolia State to determine who will face off against the Democratic Attorney General Jim Hood. Why does it feel like that race is already on? Failure to lead. Tennessee Republicans hold a rare legislative special session to elect a new House Speaker to replace the one who left in disgrace. But have they learned their lesson? And saying goodbye to the Plow Foundation, one of the biggest benefactors in Memphis that donated hundreds of millions to countless causes, is shutting its doors. What will it mean for the charities who've come to rely on Plow's generosity? Lots to get to, as you can hear, but first we're going to talk about a referendum that will be on the ballot this October, as I mentioned, when Memphians choose a new mayor and city council. The city's police officers and firefighters also hope Memphis voters will say yes to a half-cent increase in the sales tax from 9.25 to 9.75%. They say the $55 million that would bring in would be used to replace the benefits that were taken away during the Great Recession. And here to make the case are Matthew Tonick, Secretary and Treasurer for the Memphis Firefighters Association, and John Covington with the Memphis Police Association. Thanks to you both for being here.
Thank you very much.
It's never easy to get people to raise their taxes. What is the biggest misconception you think people have that if you had the opportunity right now to clear things up that you would make? We'll start with you, Matthew.
So I think this is, this is a much better option than a property tax. We have, you may have seen in recent media reports, as many as 1 million visitors a month here in Memphis. So let those visitors pay a few more cents on their purchases for better streets, better pre-K, and retain the police and firefighters that are in Memphis, protecting them while they're here in Memphis.
One flip argument I hear about that is true, that you would spread the effort around a little bit more, but there are some Memphians who feel, and I don't know what the percentages are, you may know better than me, when so many firefighters and police officers live outside the city limits, why should they vote to tax themselves more to pay for benefits for cops and firefighters that don't live in the city of Memphis?
Well, it's a great point, but it all comes down to retention. In 2014, when these massive cuts started to happen, we lost about 500 police officers. Prior to that, you'd seen some of the lowest violent crime rates you'd seen, but once those officers left and those numbers dropped, guess what happened? The violent crime rates went up. So there's been a lot of focus on recruiting, but we think retaining officers, and a big part of that is restoration of benefits. That's why I think it's in the citizens' best interest to support something like this. And I should point out, too, talking about misconceptions, I think most people do not realize that every other municipality in Shelby County, aside from Memphis, has had this half-penny sales tax since 2012, I believe, or 2013.
Yeah, all the suburban communities are at 9.75% right now, and that was increased basically with the purpose of paying for suburban school districts.
Correct.
That's correct.
But we also know, and taxpayers have learned in those municipalities, that there's no guarantee that that's what the money will be used for. Do you feel like you have that locked in? Do you know, can you tell voters that if that money, if they vote to pass that tax increase, that that's what the money's going to go toward?
Well, I think the mayor's already gone on record saying that if he's reelected, that he will follow the will of the people, the will of the people. That's what he'll use the money for. That's what he'll go to the council with.
And to speak to it more, the ordinance was written. We worked with the state attorney generals and with the state election committee, and really, questioning. So we made sure the writing of the petition is what will be the ordinance. And there's an attorney general's opinion that, of course, what people vote on is what the money will be spent on. And that seems to be the standard that we work with. And also, I should point out that politically, I think it would be very interesting if the people voted for something and it was pointed out in front of them, and then politically you chose not to follow it. I don't think that's very strong ground.
That could cause a problem.
I don't think it's strong legal ground, and clearly not strong political ground.
Well, I don't have to tell you that Memphis voters have turned down this notion once before when pre-K was on the ballot. What makes you think that this will be different? Matthew?
I don't know. Well, I don't know that it was a very good laid out plan then. We have a specific purpose for it. It's all about public safety. Public safety, public safety, public safety. street paving. You can't go anywhere in Memphis from point A to point B without hitting a pothole somewhere in the city. And I live in the city, and I'm a homeowner in the city, and I'm a taxpayer in the city, and I drive to work every day, and I hit a pothole somewhere, even if I change my routes. So let's fix these streets. Let's get these kids educated early and set them on a better path for prosperity later down the road. We have a plan laid out. This is what the money should be used for. We think it's all about public safety, and that's what the citizens hopefully will see when they go to the polls.
Can you give me 2 or 3 examples, just in dollars and cents, for the average family, how the cut in benefits impacted officers and firefighters, and how it will be changed if people vote in support of this tax increase?
Well, you know, this initiative has 2 things going for it. One is good policy, I think, because it will retain officers who we're focusing on recruitment so much. We get these folks coming here and get great training, and then about 5 years when they really hit that, where they're really well trained, that's when other organizations come looking for them, and that's when they start to think of what are my long-term, you know, benefits, my pension plan, my health care, and that's when we're seeing them leave. So we think that's an important aspect. The other is retirees whose premiums went through the roof.
Absolutely.
And, you know, here they were kind of already put their work and service in, and then these changes were made, and in some cases they're spending their entire pension on their health care raises that went up, so we'll make those changes.
But can you give me, in dollars and cents, an example? Like before the cuts, were you paying a $10 copay on prescriptions, and now it's $20, or what's an example?
So some of the copays won't. I'll take the spousal carve-out, for instance.
Okay.
So my wife has a job for a bank, and because she has a job and has insurance at her job, she has to get insurance at her employer. So, you know, we're paying an additional $125 a month for her to have insurance at her coverage, where I could just be paying an additional $50 a month to have her added onto my insurance plan. So there would be immediate savings there. I think for the retirees, sure, you know, they'll have to pay the premium, but they'll see a bump. So what's happening is, well, let's take health insurance real quickly, for example. Some of the plans that they're paying for now have deductibles upwards of $5,000 to $6,000 on top of premiums anywhere between $800 and $1,600, depending on whether it's single or single plus spouse. So it could go anywhere. You know, the city plan now is like a $600 deductible instead of a $6,000 deductible. So these retirees have put their lives on the line for 20, 30 years, 25 to 30 years. You know, they took that oath to exchange their life for the life of someone they didn't know if needed. You know, these citizens, or the citizens, should value the service that they put in.
So what happens if it doesn't pass? I know you don't want to think about that, but I know that your respective organizations have endorsed Willie Harrington in the mayor's race. Do you have an understanding that if he were to be elected, would he then find a way that Jim Strickland has not done to help you with this issue, the benefits issue?
Well, we thought it was important. You know, we went to the council, we went to the mayor with, and the saying was always, you always come with complaints but no solutions. So we said, let's go to the people with a solution. So right now our main focus is putting this before the people and letting them decide, and taking that course, you know, controlling what we can, self-funding these things that we're behind. So right now that's our whole focus.
So there is a message in who you decided to endorse and who you did not, correct?
I'll say that we've had the discussion with Dr. Harrington, yes. He would not be able to come in and fix anything overnight. He's instructed us, or told us that, and I think he's gone public with it, said he would sit down with the unions involved and meet collectively to see what we could get done. And he's, you know, he has not said that he's just going to come in, wave a magic wand, and get everything fixed in a matter of months, because, as you know, it takes a vote of the council as well. So hopefully he would do a better job of sitting down with us collectively with the council and try to get something done to restore something.
Well, I appreciate your service and sacrifice. I have an aunt and uncle who are cops in Chicago, and a first cousin who's a firefighter, investigates arsons all the time up in Milwaukee, so I know it's not easy work that you do, and we appreciate it, and good luck in your effort, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. When we come back, we'll have a round table with Susan Adler-Thorpe and Otis Sanford right after this.
It's the Labor Day sale at Mattress Firm. For a limited time, we're offering a king mattress for the price of a queen and a queen for the price of a twin. It's our best deal of the season with store-wide savings of up to $600. Plus, take home a free adjustable base with your mattress purchase of just $4.99. Our customers are raving about these deals. Experience it yourself today at the Mattress Firm Labor Day sale. Your budget stretches further at Mattress Firm.
At Staples, a bright future starts with the right supplies. So our wide selection of back-to-school essentials is in stock, guaranteed. This week, save big on the supplies they need for success. Staples, back to school and beyond.
Mankind's triumphs and failures. Every moment, every hometown, all here. We start our coverage on the ground and take it to the airwaves, so you always know what's happening in your own world and beyond. We are free TV and radio. We are breaking news. We are always there. We are broadcasters.
College football fans, it's the showdown you've been waiting for. Ole Miss versus Memphis. Join us Saturday at 9 for breakfast at Tiger Lane, brought to you by Conway Services Heating and Cooling. Followed by the Landers Countdown to kickoff at 10. Then at 11, the Rebels take on the Tigers. Right here only on Local 24.
Small businesses drive our nation's economy, employing about half of the country's private sector workforce.
Here's coffee.
Thanks so much.
When you shop at local small businesses, you help the entire community thrive.
Hello, I'm Congressman David Kustoff. Small businesses unite our community and they bolster our local economy. Shop local and help spur innovation and job creation in West Tennessee.
Brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
You're watching Local 24 this week with Richard Ransom.
And it's time for our roundtable segment now. Local 24 political analyst Otis Sanford is here, and political consultant Susan Thorpe with Thorpe Communications is here as well to talk about. Let's talk about first about the conversation we just heard. Did the Firefighters and Police Association make their case, do you think? Are voters going to pass this referendum?
I think they made a good case. I think they made the best case that they could. But if you're asking me if I think the voters will approve it, at this point I'd say no. And I think you have to ask yourself, why would people vote in favor of raising taxes to give benefits even to first responders when they don't get those benefits themselves at their own place of work, and or their cost of benefits are sky high, going through the roof? So I think this is a very difficult one for the first responders, for police and fire. I don't think it'll pass. And 6 years ago, we didn't vote for 1 cent on the tax rate to educate the youngest among us, our preschoolers. I don't think they'll do it.
But isn't that a little bit hypocritical on behalf of all of us, honestly? I mean, we complain about the crime rate. We want our firefighters to respond quickly if we need them, paramedics, and yet we're not willing to fork over a half-cent increase in the sales tax to give them the benefits they had before?
Well, in theory, yes, that is a little bit hypocritical, but I agree with everything that Susan just said. Nobody is going to stand up and just outright criticize these two gentlemen or anybody else in public safety in this town for wanting to have that tax increase for their benefit. They're not going to publicly state that. But when they get inside that voting booth, they're going to look at their own situation, and they're going to say, hey, look, I'm not into raising taxes anyway. I mean, both of you just made the point about the not raising taxes for, pre-K. I mean, that's where, we really have a big need in this community, and they didn't want to raise the taxes for that. I just think this is a tough sale. If it had been just a special election where their ardent supporters would have come out and voted for it and everybody else would have stayed home and the turnout would have been 1%, maybe it would have passed. But we're talking about a citywide election where the turnout is going to be anywhere from 25–30%. I just don't see that it's going to pass.
All right, let me move on to the Mississippi governor's race now. The Republican runoff is coming up this week. On Tuesday, another round of voting. It seems like we're always in some sort of election around here. So you have Bill Waller Jr., the former Supreme Court Chief Justice for Mississippi, and Tate Reeves, the current Lieutenant Governor. Reeves is just head over heels, got so much more money, it's not even funny, and he's spending it, as are some of the political action committees, and they're getting pretty down low, shall we say. Let's watch one of the spots.
How well do you really know Jim Hood? Jim Hood stood with Obama when his administration adopted radical, extreme policies. Hood stood with liberals in Washington and refused to fight to stop Obamacare. Hood even stood with Hillary after she called Trump voters deplorable. Now Jim Hood is standing with the radical liberal resistance, suing to stop the Trump agenda. If Jim Hood is standing with them, he's not working for us.
So they're demonizing Jim Hood, who that race supposedly hasn't even started yet.
Right.
But it seems to be the path they're deciding to take, Susan.
Well, you know, this is all political. It's political campaigns at its lowest. But sadly, but truthfully, negative campaigning works. It always does. If people say, I don't like it, it turns me off, I don't want to watch politics, yet again, it turns people in favor of the person who's criticizing them, not the one who's being criticized. So, you know, I think that I looked at that ad with Jim Hood, and if you see, they demonize Hood along with 3 women, Pelosi, Clinton, and AOC. So, and he's one of them. So, you know, you couldn't stretch the truth more. Shame on Reed, but I understand what he's doing.
Well, and there's also an anti-Waller ad that kind of makes him look like deer in headlights, just like he doesn't know what he's doing. Right. So that's all the tack they're taking. And it would seem to me that, at least in the runoff, you probably don't have to worry. Waller is not going to win. Most people would agree. Right. Why waste the money on that?
Well, I just think he's just testing the waters for an all-out assault on Jim Hood for the November election. And he's seeing how this plays right now and gets people to talking about it and get it in voters' mind that, yes, Jim Hood is with AOC. Oh, we can't have that in the state. And so I think that's what's going in. Plus, he has the money to do it. So that's what's going on here. He was only 1 point away from there not even being a runoff. Right. So he's in pretty good shape right now. And it will be an interesting general election because Jim Hood, despite the fact that Mississippi is a red state, he's won 4 elections down there as a Democrat. It'll be interesting.
Is it curious to you that he has not responded, Hood, in any way? Because what do they say? You don't let your opponent define you, and well, he's being defined.
That's interesting. He should be spending some money to have a good defense. What do they say? The best offense is a good defense in politics. But I suspect he doesn't have the money right now. I think he's saving his firepower for later. But I think it's what the Republicans are really doing is they're creating the negatives now about Hood. So when it comes to actually the general election, they can put perhaps something more positive about Tate Reeves because they've already built up the negatives.
Right, I agree with that. Plus the fact that, again, Jim Hood needs to save all of his campaign money for that November push. He's going to have a heavy African-American turnout down there in the general election in order to have any chance of winning. And he has to hope that Tate Reeves falters in some way, or he can tie him to Donald Trump in a negative way if Donald Trump continues to lose in popularity himself. I don't see that happening in Mississippi.
Let's talk about Tennessee Republicans now. We know this week that we have a new House Speaker. Cameron Sexton replaces the beleaguered Glenn Casada, who got one scandal after another. In fact, when you start reading them off, as the Tennessean did this week, it shows the problems that we have in Nashville. There are accusations of campaign finance irregularities, drug abuse in the Capitol, improper sexual conduct, condoning of racism, lack of transparency, attempted manipulation of an ethics panel, and alleged vote buying.
And this is just among the Republicans.
Right. So when you look at that list there, you know, there's some criticism being directed toward Republicans and Governor Lee as well, that you had this special session, you elected your new House Speaker, but the Tennessean called it an institutional shrug to actually do anything meaningful, so we don't have this kind of fiasco repeat itself again.
Well, I agree with that 100%. I think we talked about that last week. The impetus behind that editorial was the fact that the governor was not showing any leadership here, and I agree with that. I still say that we didn't have to have a special session where we spent $40-some thousand in taxpayer money just to name Cameron Sexton as a replacement. They could have done that when the session starts in January. This is a pretty bad time for the legislature and the Republicans in Nashville with that whole laundry list of problems that I'm not sure that anybody's really trying to clean it up.
What do you think?
I don't think anybody's really paying attention, if you really want to know the truth. I think the electorate, this is summertime, they've got their focus on other things, so this was a special session called just for the Republicans because they could run up there and say, look, we've done something, and when the legislature starts again at the next session, nobody's going to be paying attention.
Nobody's going to know about it.
Yeah, they're not going to be paying.
And that was the whole point.
And is it lack of leadership by the governor? I mean, what's the governor going to do? So you've got to come here and you've got to fix all these 10 problems? He's going to be singing to the wind. It's just not going to happen. So,
well, I say the governor should have taken the lead earlier on when all of the stuff started to come out about Glenn Cassida. He did not do that. Yep. And so, I mean, I just don't know where he is in terms of real full-fledged, full-throated leadership on a lot of different things.
Maybe he doesn't know where he is right now anyway.
Well, that may be true.
Well, they did address the issue somewhat quickly, and hopefully they've stopped the bleeding. I know that's what they think and hope. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Plow Foundation, which we learned is going to shut its doors in a few years, right after this.
Down to business by sending out our rapid response team with all the resources. Hurting a car or truck wreck? Think fast. Call Team NST today.
If your glasses aren't perfect, we'll fix them.
So will we.
No, we won't. Don't just get one pair of perfect glasses. Buy any pair at regular price, get one free. Really. VisionWorks. See the difference.
That's why we called Bathfitter. They removed our old tub and installed a beautiful new spacious shower. Now, getting in and out is a breeze. And we have peace of mind with seamless walls that provide a watertight fit, plus their lifetime guarantee. Thanks to Bathfitter, life is so much easier with a shower we love.
Call today or learn more at bathfittersouth.com.
Liberal Lynn Fitch. She won't fight for Mississippi conservatives. Fitch took thousands from liberal New York City trial lawyers who backed crooked Hillary Clinton. We could end the Jim Hood era, but not with liberal Lynn Fitch. She's Hood's hand-picked choice for Attorney General, taking thousands from the same trial lawyers who control Hood.
Hi, I'm Andy Taggart. Mississippi's gone without a conservative Attorney General for far too long. It's simple. I'm the only candidate for Attorney General who's been a conservative Republican my entire life.
My mom never let me eat this much cookie dough.
What would she say if she saw you eating this big scoop cookie dough blast?
I don't know. Why ask her?
Don't tell your father.
Oh, naughty, naughty.
Hurry in and scoop up our new cookie dough treats. Try order ahead to get happy hour anytime.
Foundation to this community. I think it's in their charter that they will only help causes in Memphis and Shelby County. And boy, they have made such a difference to the bottom line of so many, from the arts to food banks to, I mean, you pick your cause. Susan, you kind of have a unique perspective because you actually remember as a child Abe Plow, whose fortune helped build the Plow Foundation.
Yeah, I did, and I knew his daughter, and I know his 3 granddaughters, and Abe Plow was a man who was, I think, forever grateful to this community because it gave him a home and a place where he built his fortune, and that's why he kept his focus here. He was also, of course, a very kind and very philanthropic man, and he set the standard for that family because they were so blessed with doing so well, that he set the standard for giving back to a community through health care, education, countless causes, faith-based causes, senior citizens, elder abuse in recent years, and the list goes on and on. And you ask the question, what does a community do when a big foundation like the Plow Foundation says, we're going to bring it to an end in a few years? Well, the community, one, has to be grateful to the memory of Mr. Plow and to his family who carried on his legacy, but also others should step up to the plate and emulate Mr. Plow and his family and do the good things they have done. We do have other foundations in this community that do this kind of work, but
we do have a lot of poverty in this city, but we do have, as you're pointing out, a lot of wealth that could step up and help fill the void.
Oh, and I really hope that they do. I mean, we have, as you said, we do have a lot of wealthy people in this community, but I don't think any of them rise to the level of what A. Plow and the Plow Foundation has done. I mean, this foundation, I think, was formed in 1960. So they've been doing this for almost 70 years here, in addition to A. Plow himself giving out money himself under the guise of Mr. Anonymous.
Mr. Anonymous, right.
And everybody knew who he was, but he had so much respect that the newspapers were, okay, it came from Mr. Anonymous.
Yeah, we'll go along.
We'll go along.
And he was always known for his challenge grants.
Yeah.
That he would offer X amount of dollars if the community would match that by a certain date. And almost always they did. I do remember one instance when the city council didn't do it and they were foolish not to, but that was back in the 70s. But he set a standard for us. And I think that this community should always be grateful to a family like the Plows, and I think others in coming years should step up and do much the same. Maybe they don't have the same kind of resources, the same amount, but every little bit helps. I
agree. This is a charitable community. It is ranked as one of the most charitable communities in the nation, and I do think and I do hope that they will step up collectively to try to fill this void. Again, we got 4 years. They're not leaving for another 4 years, and they're going to disperse all of their assets to other needy nonprofits, worthy nonprofits. So it's a good thing for the whole community.
And like you said, they've given them plenty of time to adjust.
Exactly.
Because it's 4 years before they actually shut their doors. All right, we'll take a break, wrap things up right after this.
Good to see you. Very nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
We started Friday Night Lights as a way to give our young people something to do. We've also added hours and new activities to our libraries, and attendance is up nearly 98%. We've expanded youth summer jobs, and next year, for the first time ever, every child will have the opportunity to attend high-quality pre-K. Because what I'm committed to most as your mayor is making sure every child has a chance.
Have a car? A title? You can get up to $6,500 with Title Max. Go to TitleMax.com and enter your car year, make, and model. See how much you could get. Check out TitleMax.com for the most cash you need. Check out TitleMax.com and shop us for rates. Check out TitleMax.com. All credit types accepted. Find out why so many people say,
I got my title back with Title Max.
I got my title back with Title Max.
Get your title back with Title Max.
When our veterans thrive, our communities thrive. With your support, our veterans can get career and education opportunities as well as benefits they've earned.
I'm Senator Marsha Blackburn. Our veterans have given Tennessee so much, and it's time to do something for them. Find out how you can support them right in your community.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
America's veterans are more than a source of pride. They're a source of strength. When our veterans thrive, our communities thrive. With your support, our veterans can get career and education opportunities as well as benefits they've earned.
Hello, I'm Congressman David Kustoff. Join me in thanking our nation's veterans. They've given so much in service to our country. Find out how you can support veterans in our community.
This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
My thanks to the Memphis Police and Fire Associations who had representatives here earlier today, as well as to Susan Thorpe and Otis Hanford for being here too, and you as well at home. We'll see you next week for Local 24 This Week.